One of my biggest problems, I'd say, trying to get sober over the years is I wasn't, in all honesty, at the time, I wasn't a big God guy. Not that I didn't believe in God. I believed in something. I just didn't know what I believed in. And I couldn't put God in a box.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's I got older, I listened to too much Joe Rogan, I started questioning everything. And it's like, oh, man wrote the Bible. Can I really trust this or whatever? And so this story I'm about to tell you guys is what let me know that God is very real in my life. And I don't care what anybody has to say.
What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the #1 mental health and addiction podcast, the Hopeaholics. I am your girl, Natalie Eva Marie, and these are my boys.
I'm Chad.
Hi, I'm Shane.
Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow us on our socials and wherever you get your podcasts.
Got a new episode dropping every Monday and Thursday. Please come check it out.
This episode is brought to you by the Infinity Group. You guys, if you or a loved one is suffering, please call us today. The number is right here on the screen. We are here for you 24/7. Now, let's get into the episode.
Shawn Livingston, welcome to the Hopeaholics Podcast.
Yeah, bro, welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask the question again.
Do it.
Is a 52K
Yeah,
really an ultra?
I believe so.
Yes, anything over a marathon is an ultra.
I'm just saying, but like to a real ultra runner, it's got to be 100 miles.
No, real ultra runners run.
100 miles or more.
No, that's spoken by somebody that's never run.
There's a guy that has actually done really well in them, and I'm
I
waiting
know.
for his answer, not yours.
Okay. That's my
So
opinion.
anybody that runs, I'm giving you props off the top. If you ever run one step over a marathon, I'm giving you props. But technically, yes, it is an ultra. But ultra runners, 100K, 100 mile or above, that's kind of what, if somebody came in the room and they're like, hey, I ran an ultra, I ran a 50K, people would be like, oh, great. And then kind of turn around and be like,
Oh, Natalie.
But you did a 52K, though.
Yeah, the 30, yeah.
See, I
Which
don't like
is-
to go against Natalie. I just don't like to.
That's bullshit. You always go against
I'm
Natalie.
trying to be nice right now.
Yeah, a 52K, so that's what, 32.3?
Miles,
Miles.
yeah.
Something like that. And
Yeah.
and again, that's more cumulatively. That's more than most people will ever run in their life.
I
So
can't
anybody that does a
even do.
50K,
I'm
go.
scared. We have a 10K coming up, and I'm scared. Like scared.
No. Oh, really?
Oh yeah, 10K. That's fucking like 6 miles, bro.
So most people when it comes to running, they quit before they're even warmed up. And so even when I was training for 100 milers and stuff like that, I was running 100 miles a week. Every run, the first 2-3 miles.
Dude, me too.
suck.
They are, like, I
suck.
literally want to quit. I talk
Yeah.
shit to myself the entire time.
And then what happens?
I don't know. It just is like
You hit your flow.
yeah, you break through. You have to hold on, though, because it happens. It happened to me this weekend. I had I've gone home for Christmas break. I was kind of on my thing and doing because we all wake up really, really early. So I was doing my little routine. Then I went home and it kind of threw me out a little bit. So this weekend, my first 2 miles, I literally was like, what the fuck?
Right.
I'm not only am I dying, I'm like dragging, I'm hating life.
Right.
And it had only been 7 days since my last just a nice little 6 mile run,
Yeah.
easy breezy.
Yeah.
So
Easy.
Yes.
So are you guys telling me that this 10K is going to be easier than the 5K that we did?
Just as easy.
Just as easy?
Yeah, maybe even better because you're going to actually be warmed up. The first 2 miles, as soon as you start running, your body's like, what the fuck are
Yeah.
you doing? Stop this right now. But then 2-3 miles, it's like your lungs open up. It's like your body gets lubricated for whatever reason. And then you're like, oh, I could do this forever.
Now this is not your traditional running. It's a Spartan. So there's all these other little obstacles in between, which the obstacles don't really bother me. But it was the running in between the fucking obstacles that got me. Well, the burpee when I failed an obstacle.
Yeah, when you mess up, the burpees are going to get you.
It really got me, dude.
Right.
Like I was good. I had caught up to Natalie because she had to do some burpees and I hadn't done any burpees yet. And I was like, I'm gonna pass her on the fucking rings. And she was like stumbling on the beginning of the rings, and I was like, I got this. And I took off on the rings, dude. I made it like 4 rings and fell.
So who ended up winning?
Me.
You got? Did you?
Yeah.
Smoked me by
Good
like
shit.
10 fucking minutes.
Because she
Yeah.
did a 52K.
Yeah, I
and
know.
I ran with my vest on, weighted.
Oh,
Just saying.
No, I didn't. I had my vest on, but I took the weights out.
badass.
Yeah,
Badass.
she is.
I just did my first Spartan a couple weekends ago.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is. It's a good time. I mean, we talk a lot of shit, and it is like, competitive spirit. But at the end of the day, it's fun to do something, especially like we work together.
Right.
And then to do something like that, anything physical is fun. We were all like riding high after. Like you feel the endorphins and like the release. Like that shit's real.
Well,
like,
I will tell you though, for me, I finished the race and I said to myself, I will never do this again. And then because I was so dehydrated. No.
30 minutes, an hour later, he's like, guys, we're signing up for another one.
That's what
After he like got some water.
I got some water in me and a little bit of like food.
Took a little like breath.
And then all of a sudden the fucking high came.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I like this shit.
That's exactly how ultra running is. Every ultra distance I ever ran, I'd finish the distance and be like, all right, there's no reason to ever run this far again. And then that night or the next morning you wake up, you're like, all right, what's the next one? I could do that shit.
What got you into it?
So was in treatment. I went to 12 different treatment centers. Was in my last treatment. I was 8 months sober. I had done a bunch of time at the VA before I went to the center, and took a look in the mirror and just hated who I saw.
And that was at 8 months of sobriety?
8 months sober. I was in a 6-month treatment center. I just got there, and then had a gut out to here, felt like shit, looked like shit. And I was not a runner growing up, period. Sure. If I was running without a basketball or a football or a baseball in my hand, I was in trouble for something. It was punishment. And so I hear about this little run group that met in downtown Austin, and I was like, go there, lose a couple pounds. And so I ended up getting special permission from the treatment center. They took me down there, and I remember showing up to the first run. My ego was still huge. I'm still smoking a pack of Newports a day, and I show up, and I'm like, they ain't got nothing for me. I'll be the fastest one here. My ass got dusted by every man and woman there that day. I was dead last. I came across the line. I'm sucking for air. But when I got done, I just remember feeling this like overwhelming sense of accomplishment. And it had been as long as I could remember since I felt that. And so I was like, cool, I'm just going to keep coming back. And so pretty quickly, 2 miles turned into 3 turned into 4. I dropped the cigarettes. And then I got hooked up with a woman. Her name's Penny Lane. And she runs ultra marathons and all that stuff. And so I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know it was. And she just knew how to poke me competitively.
Sure.
And so I begged her. I was like, will you train me up for a 10K? And so she said yes. So she takes me out. We train. We do this 10K. I get done, and I'm like feeling myself. I'm like, ooh, look at me. Just did a 10K. And she looked at me, and she's like, you could do more. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you could run farther. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll run farther then. And so then my next race was a 30K. She did it to me again. My next race was a 50K. 100K, and then right around 100K, that's when like a light bulb went off in my head. And, I think, for me, just speaking for me, I think you spend so many years in meetings and treatment and all this, so many years of introducing myself as Shawn the alcoholic, Shawn the addict, Shawn the dope fiend. You say it so much, you start like funnily saying things to make your buddies laugh and stuff. And it just got beat down into my head. And I just remember finishing that 100K, and I was like, wait a minute, like, junkies don't go out and run 100Ks in Bandera, Texas in the middle of summer. Like, I'm capable of far more than I was giving myself credit for. And then I just kept going with it. So,
wow.
Yeah. I didn't know, I had no idea. I'm an addict. I put all my eggs in one basket. And so I'm getting out of the military. They diagnosed me PTSD, depression, anxiety disorder, panic disorder, agoraphobia, you name it.
Wow.
And then they just slide me 15 bottles of pills.
Yeah.
And the pills are what got me in trouble in the first place.
Sure.
And so, I go back to that and I think about those meetings with the doctors, and at no point did any doctor ever say to me, like, how are you sleeping? How are you eating? Are you exercising? Do you drink water? Fundamental things to being a good, healthy human being. Nobody ever asked me. Well, then I stumble into this running thing, and all of a sudden, a lot of these mental health things I was having just started getting a whole lot better. But at the end of the day, the pills, the meetings, the therapy, it didn't keep me happy. It didn't keep me sober. It was a Band-Aid. I'm not saying it didn't help, but it wasn't the end-all, be-all. And so then I hear about the spiritual health, 12 steps and all that. And so being an addict, I put all my eggs into that basket. And what I found for myself was I kept like trapping myself in this recovery bubble where everything I did, everything I talked about, every event I went to, it was just recovery. But what nobody ever talked to me about, what I didn't understand for myself, was understanding that like recovery is my foundation. It's not my whole life. It's on me to find something that lights a fire up under my ass to like make me excited to be alive, make me excited to be sober. And so I didn't know a world existed or ever think that physical activity or any of that stuff could play this part that it did, but discovered running, and it just put all the pieces of the puzzle together for me. My mental health got better. My spiritual health got better. Now all of a sudden there's people in the treatment center that are watching me have this transformation. Mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden they want to start running. And so I can remember leaving, you know, I'd leave 4:45 in the morning. I'd start walking to downtown Austin. And, you know, every night they started seeing, I went from being the tough guy sitting in the back of the room to all of a sudden now I'm shaking everybody's hands. I'm sitting up in front of group. I'm contributing during groups. Mm-hmm. And they saw this happening. And so inevitably every night I would get somebody that would be like, hey, man, you know, what time you go running? Can I come with you? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. 4:45, we're leaving. Now, rarely I would ever get anybody, but eventually I did get one. And then all of a sudden I had 3 people. I had 5 people. And then by the end of the thing, I had all 16 people that were in the treatment center walking to downtown Austin with me. And I was like, I mean, it's a whole lot easier to walk into a room and be like, hey, do you guys want to catch a workout? But if you walk in a room and you're like, hey, you want to catch a run?
Sure.
You want to see people hit the deck real quick. That's what it is. But so to think that I had another 16 addicts walking to downtown Austin with me to go run is just, it's wild to me. And I just didn't know the important part that it could play in my life.
No, I think that's so, well, one, thank you for your service. What branch were you in?
So I did 6 years in the Air Force and then got out and then 4 in the Army.
Oh, wow. I think it's so important. I mean, we always talk about it on here of just like your basic little questions that it's fascinating that a lot of doctors don't ask patients when they come in, of just that what you just literally said about your sleep, what you're eating, are you moving your body at all? Just like real basic things that I think us as humans forget are essential and have so much benefit for mind, body, and soul, for all of the things. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, in some cases, like, of course, like medication is needed and that's fine, but there's a lot of us that are wanting a quick fix, especially a former addict or alcoholic. You know, it's something quick and easy to do. Obviously, going out for a run or having to really get outside of yourself and take those actionable steps requires a lot more from yourself than, you know, popping a pill.
Research does show, though, that exercise beats out those pills.
Oh, it does. I mean, it's scientific.
Scientifically proven.
Yes.
By far.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is good because we do live in an era where we have so many podcasts and so much information from guys like Huberman is a great one for people to really learn about, you know, science and what happens to the brain and the body when you are, you know, breaking a sweat or getting your sleep and all the things that are essential for us to operate on a daily basis. But running is crazy because I think that it's like a form of meditation. You're amongst yourself, and then being outside is really important for people as well.
Yeah.
I think there's a study that I was reading where 20 minutes of just walking outside is I can't remember the actual percentage, but it does
to your body with the good enzymes, the things it gives off. Yeah, that's why I do 15 and 15, the 15 walk and 15 degrees.
I
was going 20 minutes on the treadmill. Yeah.
But taking it a step further, it's outside. Like being outside is really important. Is something with our body and being in the getting sun,
kind of thing.
That's why I gravitated towards trail running. I think there was just something so therapeutic about going out there, and especially when you're suffering. And you're taking yourself to extreme things, but getting out away from the people, away from the cars, away from the cell phone, the Wi-Fi, and just actually getting out there in nature is, I mean, beyond therapeutic for me.
I couldn't agree. I had the same kind of experience. Obviously, nowhere near. I'm not run nearly as much as you have. And I'm not a runner at all. I actually hate running, even though soccer was my sport. So looking back, it's crazy because you're running 90 minutes in a game, and all your training that you're doing is some sort of running of some degree, anaerobic and aerobic. So you're running all the time.
How many miles do you think you would clock during a soccer game?
That is a really good question. I don't know because
you're running constantly.
You're constantly running, but it's like short bursts.
Find out. That's
better chat GPT.
Oh yeah. That is a really, really actually good question because 90 minutes. It's short bursts though, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, even even when you're slowing down, it's still
Sure,
kind of a
you're-
jog,
yeah, I
walk,
know.
sprint,
Yeah,
jog, walk,
yeah.
sprint.
You're never
like that.
not really moving.
Right.
But then to venture into kind of the ultra world, I have noticed for myself, and I've always loved to work out. It's just something like that I've always known that I've needed. But running does something different. I feel like I am so much more peaceful when I'm running consistently, for sure.
I've never been a good like sit down meditate.
I know, me neither.
Not
It's
good at
hard.
it.
It's so hard for
But
me too.
my meditation is running.
Same. That's how I kind of like. That's
where
what I
I
tell my sponsor. I'm like, because I've always tried to do, which I'm still working on, because I would really love to like hone that in of just being able to kind of like, you know, I have this maybe fantasy in my head where you just like are like this Zen, you know, with your legs crossed and you're able to just like be still.
Right.
But I find running allows me to get there.
Yeah, I love where we're at as far as like in the recovery space and the world. People doing podcasts, we're talking about it more. We're getting away from this old way of thinking of like everything has to be anonymity and all that. But like understanding, you're like, as you continue to build on your recovery, you find what works for you.
For sure. And I think we stress on that too, because we do believe that in recovery, whatever that looks like for every individual, it's going to be different.
Yes.
There's not one way or a wrong way. It's whatever that you find in your sobriety journey for you to be the best that you possibly can be and live to your fullest potential. Do it.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. There's not like the only way that you can get sober is X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, but look what happened in the schools. Look at what's happened in the world. Over the last 10 years, they've taken God away from schools. They've taken exercise out of schools. Mental health, therefore, obviously on the rise. You take exercise out of grade 10, 11, and 12, grade 9. I mean, they're going to start, depression's going to start heading in early.
Dude, you couldn't be more spot on. For the past 2 years, one of the things I've been trying to do, and to be honest, it's one of the hardest things I've ever tried to do, is to get into these schools.
Yeah.
Right? You can't go a day without seeing one of these kids dying from fentanyl in these schools.
Right.
I go there, I'd show them the movie, I let them know what I do with speaking, I let them know the podcast, everything I'm doing. And I always use this one as a reference, but I sat down with one school and I had the 8 most high up people at the school there. Everybody was on board. They couldn't wait. The only reason I was there is because a kid just died from an overdose. And so I'm there, and there was one woman, she spoke up, and she's like, yeah, I think we have everything under control. And I was like, ma'am, if you don't mind me asking, because we're talking about kids' lives, like, what are you doing? And she goes, I personally show the kids a 10-minute PowerPoint, or the student council, a 10-minute PowerPoint on the dangers of drugs and alcohol. And I was like, man, with all due respect, if you would ever have come in and shown me that video, I would have put my head down and went to sleep. I'm willing to bet someone like myself with lived experience and a little bit different voice than what they hear every day is able to come in here and grab these kids' attention in a different way. But there's just so much yellow tape to get into these
bureaucracy
schools.
is nuts.
And it's public schools too. Private schools, they can't wait.
I'm not going to use the L word right now. I'm not.
L word.
I'm not going to say it. It's just, you know what I'm saying?
That's good. That's good.
I'm just saying things are changing.
Yeah.
You know, mental health is going to get better. Exercise is back on. We got a few guys in the government right now that are focusing on mental health and exercise, getting rid of the junk food.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to start fighting back now.
Let's go.
Times are changing.
Let's go.
Right?
Yes.
Shit.
How did you get? First of all, for people that are listening, they can watch what is the title of the movie or the documentary?
100 Miles to Redemption.
100 Miles to Redemption.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Amazing.
Yes.
When did it drop?
So it was set to come out. We're getting ready to go to the film festivals, and quarantine hit.
Okay.
And so try to understand like the fact that this even. So let me go back a little bit. Austin, I ended up doing an interview with Austin Marathon. That's kind of what put my story out there a little bit. And then I got invited to come on Lance Armstrong's podcast.
Amazing.
So I go on there.
That's nice.
And then next thing I know, I get a phone call to director asking if I want to be part of this project. He wants to do a film on my story. Now, we don't get calls like that. So I thought it was like one of my buddies fucking with me. I was ready to hang up on him.
Yeah.
Turns out it was real. And turns out I just happened to be training for this 100-miler. And so I forgot where I was going with this.
How it kind of came about, and then it was going to drop during...
oh, yeah. And so then it's getting ready to come out during quarantine. Now, I still, even to this day, can't believe that this has happened in my life.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's the most surreal experience ever. But I'm finally getting all amped up because it's like real. And then quarantine hits. And I'm like, so we didn't go to any of the film festivals. But it ended up getting the original release on Amazon. And then once the quarantine got lifted, we did a premiere and all that kind of stuff. But
so then did it come out during like the whole lockdown?
Yeah, so it was out there and then.
Like 2020 or 2021-ish?
Around there, yeah.
Yeah?
But unfortunately, back then, I wasn't doing much on social media, and I'm a horrible self-promoter, so I didn't ever, like, put it out there.
Sure.
Now that I've gotten involved more in the recovery, social media, and all that
yeah, and people
stuff,
can get literally go.
I'll watch it this weekend.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
I will
watch
too.
It for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it for sure. Now I want to ask you. You were injured.
Yes, sir.
So 6 years Air Force, 4 years Army.
Yes, sir.
And you got into injury out there.
Yeah, so I ended up getting into lost my way after the Air Force. I was stationed over in Germany.
Yeah.
And I was just too young. I didn't have enough life experience to understand how good I had it.
How old were you when you went in?
I went in right after 9/11, so 18.
Oh, wow.
I graduated high school.
Young pup, yep.
Tried one semester of college, realized that wasn't the move for me, and then 9/11 happened and I was gone.
Yeah.
So I got stationed over in Germany, was homesick, thought I was missing all these big bad things happening in Youngstown, Ohio. I go back there, the area is completely leveled from OxyContin.
Jesus.
I start playing around with it, realize I'm not, nothing good's going to end up happening like that. And so eventually I bounced around 5 different states in 2 years. Little did I know I was the problem everywhere I went. The problem was still there. And so ended up in Tampa, or I was living in Miami, Florida. That's where I discovered heroin. I'd been shooting heroin for about a year and then just burned everything down there. And so it was the first and only time that I was going to call home and do and ask for help. And so I remember talking to my mom, and she said her and my grandmother were going to pull money together and send me to treatment. And so I get shipped off to Tampa. I go to a detox in Tampa, and I'm sitting there, and I remember talking to my mother on the phone, and she's like, all right, now do your research, find the best place you can, wherever you want to go, we're going to send you. I was kicking dope. I wasn't going to do any research.
Yeah.
And so I ended up hearing all these people are going to this one treatment center in Louisiana. And so I'm like, awesome, I'll go there. And so I get shipped to Louisiana, show up. It's this beautiful plantation home, men and women facility. So I'm all excited about that. And all I know is the first couple of days, every room I went into, there was a picture of this guy on the wall. And I couldn't figure out who this guy was. And so by like day 3, I asked one of the clients, I'm like, hey, who's the picture of the guy on the wall? And they're like, oh, that's L. Ron Hubbard. And I was like,
Jesus.
I was like, who?
So your Scientology place.
Yeah. And so I was like, who's that? And he's like, oh, he's the founder of Scientology. I was like, what's that? And so this is back in the day when there was still portable DVD players.
Yeah.
So he takes me up into his room, busts out the box set of South Park, pops it in, and shows me the episode that explains what Scientology is. And my jaw hits the floor. Yeah. And I'm like, where am I right now?
Where were you?
Narconon, Louisiana.
Yeah.
They were running they had the lock on the internet from the get-go.
Really?
Yeah. They were crushing it.
Yeah.
And I started in this business in like 2001, and from 2001 until their demise.
Yeah.
I mean,
they controlled everything.
Oh, wow, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
They had places in Newport. They had a house, Newport Beach, waterfront, sand front.
Wow.
It was kind of like their flagship, though, that you oftentimes they were a big bait and switch place.
Yeah.
Okay.
They would you would think you were going to Newport and end up somewhere in like Arizona or something.
Oh my God.
But they had tons of them, thousands of beds.
Yeah.
Really doing well. How did you detox? Because didn't they do that?
Well, he detoxed in Tampa.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Did detox in Tampa.
And was this after you served? Like after you got out of the military?
So I'd done 6 years in the Air Force, and then there was that 2 years where I kind of bounced around everywhere. Ended up in Miami.
Okay.
I went there, and so they don't ever talk to you about Scientology while you're there.
Sure.
You know it, but they don't talk to you about it. But then their thing is they're going to offer you a job at the end.
Yeah.
You got no options. You got nowhere to go.
You.
Everybody's living in this fly house down the street. Everybody's using their paychecks to go get tattoos. And so, oh, this is the shit.
Yeah.
And so I remember I called home to my family. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to stay here and work here. And my mom was like, bet your ass. You better get your ass home. And so I came home, joined the Army, and then that's what landed me in Texas.
Oh, okay.
So getting back to your question, sorry. As soon as I get to Texas, immediately our unit got orders. We're heading to Iraq. And so we started training immediately. And so probably about 3-4 months into me training and being at Fort Hood, we were doing a drill called 3 to 5 second rushes. And so basically you're full battle rattle, you got all your gear, you got your weapon, and you're simulating like you're in a war scenario. And so you run 3 to 5 seconds, drop as fast as you can, hop back up, run, drop. Creative way to get you to do burpees, basically. And so we're doing that, and I go to get up one time, and I just felt a little tweak in my back. Didn't think much of it at the time. Next morning I wake up, I can't sit up out of bed. I can't roll anything. I could barely step forward with my right leg. I had herniated 2 discs, and it was pinching my sciatic nerve. Now, there's a very real moment in the military where you realize and understand you're not really you anymore. You're a number. You know what I mean? You signed up for it. You're cool with it. You get it. I have no problem with it. But unfortunately, there's not much feeling. And so the military invests a whole lot of money into training you, feeding you, housing you, all that. And if you're not ready to go to war when it's time,
you're done.
They start looking at you pretty shitty. And so it's just it wasn't a good culture. And so I'm an extremely competitive person. There was nothing that was going to stop me from deploying. But people start looking at you crooked because all of a sudden you're hurt right before you're about to deploy. And so I'm taking the painkillers, I'm getting my steroid shots, I'm masking the pain, I'm going to get other extracurricular things to help with the pain just so I can deploy. And then deployed, worst thing I could have done, just because it just tormented my back the entire time. And, you know, you go over there and you hear a lot, you know, PTSD, war and stuff like that. And we went through our deployment and, you know, you don't really see the effects of that until you get back. And so I come back, my back's all messed up, my head's not in the right place. I have a bunch of hazardous duty pay saved up. But we came back, man, and our unit fell apart. Within no time, you know, my squad leader, who, if I was going to tell you guys, show you guys like what an American soldier is, the definition of an American soldier, I would have showed you him. He was everything I wanted to be in a leader, a man, a brother, all that. And so we come back and, we were texting that night. This is a couple weeks after we get back, and we're texting, we're talking shit back and forth. The next morning I show up to formation, he's not there. Later in the day I would find out that he had found out about his wife cheating on him while we were deployed. He emptied a clip on her, killed himself
Shit.
with both of his young children in the house. Now I need you to understand this is completely uncharacteristic for this man. He was under the influence when it happened. That's why it happened. And then, so I have that happen. And then my absolute best friend in the world, I got multiple tattoos with him. He was a blood dude from the Bronx. We were from completely different worlds, but we were brothers as soon as we met. For a long time, I carried his death around with me because I felt like I was responsible. Because he hung around me so much and watched me do hard drugs so many times, I feel like he just became desensitized to it. He was not a partier, really. He'd have a couple beers, but he wasn't a pill popper, or opiate guy, or anything. He ended up getting stationed somewhere else when we got back. He didn't know you couldn't mix opiates and Xanax. Was tired, lay down for a nap, never woke up.
Fuck.
And then one of my other best friends, he went home on leave, home to Alabama to see his mother. They found him in his kitchen, laying there, passed out. Next to him was his mother, who was dead from blunt force trauma to the head, mixed Xanax, other pills, and alcohol, and killed his mother. He's doing life in prison in Alabama right now.
Oh my God.
So we got hit with all that right when we got back, and then now I had this crippling addiction, and so it was just,
and those guys
it was
were
off
all
to the
in
races.
your unit?
Yeah, they were all friends. And so it's, you know, you talk about stuff that happens over in wartime, but then when you come back, like that was the shit. Over there, you're able to rationalize a lot of things that happen because you know where you are, you know what it's about, you know why you're there.
Plus, you got the boys every day. It's a fun. You're getting up. You're high-fiving. You're drinking. You're working out.
And you have purpose.
You have purpose. You come back and all
as
of a
an
sudden,
addict, to be able to find that purpose.
Yeah.
But then you come back and that purpose is kind of gone.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of our military or servicemen and women have that same issue when they come back to like civilian life, or when they leave the military. They have a really hard time, regardless if they're an addict or not, going back into like civilian life because of the purpose. Like when you're away or when you're deployed, you're purpose driven. You have a goal, you have an objective, you have a team. So you have like the camaraderie, everything that we need as humans, you know, teamwork makes the dream work. I totally believe in that.
Yes.
So like you have the camaraderie of your unit or whoever you're with. You have a schedule, you know the task, you know what you're doing, and then you come back and you get like basically kind of put back into a life that you're now having to adjust, whether it's with, your wife or husband or partner, whatever it is, or family, or taking care of mom and dad, or whatever it is, that all of a sudden it feels like kind of out of touch.
Yeah.
And then now when it comes to work, it's don't know where to really kind of go in that kind of area.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know, did the military do anything for you guys when you came back, as far as counseling or making you guys like do any sort of therapy to a degree?
Making us? No. I mean, you can go get it if you want, but
that's a stigma too, because then it's like, yeah, your head's not in the game, you're fucked up.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? And coming home, even coming home to your wife and to your brother or your mom, it's not the same as being with the boys.
Right.
Like, it's just not that same feeling of love, of gratefulness, of fucking happiness, because, you know, your wife pisses you off.
Well, no,
your kids are stressful. You got this. You know what I'm saying?
He usually brings up his his personal life often.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
No,
this is just real.
No,
but I also think too, besides all of that,
my wife never really pisses me off, bro.
Okay.
Good for you, bro.
But I also
pushing that down.
I also think that like you don't have the person to how can you relate? You can't.
No. This is what I'm saying.
It's different.
Exactly.
So it is very important.
She doesn't know.
And you come back calloused, you come back rash, and then you come back to a tender person that's excited to see you.
Yeah.
Right? They want to hug, they want to love you, and you're like, whoa.
All these emotions you're not used to dealing with anymore. Yeah. I thank God I wasn't married then, and I didn't have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
But
do you think that some of the tragic situations that happen with, you know, those men in your unit is because of, obviously there was substance involved, but do you think it's from whether it's untreated PTSD that they were dealing with as well, or some type of TBI too? Because like you hearing gunshots or certain things happen too, that a lot of times you're concussed and do a lot of stuff to the brain that is never treated without people really knowing that they had some type of brain issue going on as well.
Yeah. I mean, you would have to change the entire culture of the military. You know what I mean? If I come back with 10 guys, I don't want to be the one guy that's like, hey guys, I'm having trouble. But that's just the culture. But I also think, and I don't think this gets talked about, this is just my opinion, but you also have to think of the type of people, myself included, that the military attracts.
Yeah.
I went to the military because I didn't have any other options.
Sure.
School wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And so usually some, you know,
right.
I had a great upbringing, but some people are coming from broken homes, lots of trauma. They don't screen that stuff.
No, they really don't. And the majority of, I mean, you're looking at Alabama, Texas area, like you're talking the Midwest kind of area where it's kind of the life isn't, like there's not much to do.
Yeah.
It's like they're dead end towns.
Right. Yeah, you don't usually see people from big cities. It'll be somewhere just like you're saying, somewhere in Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Kansas, Idaho. Yeah, for sure.
Running from something.
Yep.
Or wanting to get away from something.
Yeah.
You know, looking for something better.
And let me be clear, like even with the issues that the military has and all that stuff, there's without a doubt, it's the most proud thing I've ever done. I could not be more proud to have been a soldier. I will do anything for veterans. Couldn't support it enough, but it's the government. You're a number, and it's just what it is.
You know what it is, though? You know what I find? You're a number always in everything. Like any professional sport.
Yeah.
You know,
you're
football, hockey, it doesn't matter.
No, what it comes down to is that you're your own advocate. You're your own hero.
Well,
so if you need to get well, you have to take the bull by the horns, and you have to do whatever it is to make sure that you are good, mind, body, and soul, whatever that may be. If you need to go see therapy, go see therapy.
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to hopefully get to a point where you can make that move, or else really bad things are going to happen.
Well, the stigma has to be broken across the board, and then even more so for veterans, because here's the truth of what you just said. You don't want to be the one guy that comes home out of the 10 that needs to go to see a therapist. But the truth is probably 10 out of 10 need to go see a therapist.
For sure.
And they would actually perform better at home, and then when you got to go back, they would perform better back there. So if the military could start figuring that out, But you know, a lot of the guys at the top, they don't ever see war.
No, because they get removed. You're right.
Right. Or they don't see the guys that are having the problems and stuff
And the
like
boots
that.
on the ground is very disassociated. But I think it goes around with like all really the jobs in general, from our military into like even doctors or ER nurses and people that are seeing a lot of things, or our firemen as well, that are seeing a lot of things that normal people aren't seeing on a day-to-day basis. There has to be some type of implementation where it's not like you have to raise your hand and say, I'm struggling, but it's like some type of
reintegration,
or like where it is a requirement to a degree, where everybody has to check in with something where I don't know what that would look like, but
well, it also can't be pills though, because they push so much. Like you said, you come back and you're on 15 different medications, and those medications are no good.
Right.
I mean, you know, there could be one or two that could be beneficial to getting from point A to point B.
Sure.
But 15, and we know this from experience here, helping veterans. Yeah. Literally got in trouble by the VA. So our doctor, our psychiatrist is she is a lieutenant colonel in the Army currently, Army Reserves, and she's done 4 tours of duty herself, and she understands a bit more than even like your normal doctor at the VA, right? And so the veterans come into our program. And what she starts doing is reducing their meds.
Good.
Well, we started getting in trouble by the VA for that.
Yep.
That is insane.
You should have seen the conversation I had with my therapist when I went in and finally asked to come off Suboxone. They tried to literally force me. They tried to scare me, everything like that.
At the VA?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was their reasoning why they wanted you on Suboxone when you were saying that you wanted to, taper off?
They were telling me you're gonna relapse.
You're gonna
relapse immediately. You can't do it. They started talking about like my benefits not being good anymore. Like they were trying to scare me to stay on this medication. I'm sitting there telling her, I was like, man, I work a program. I have an amazing support community. I'm doing a bunch of running. Telling her everything that I have in my thing, which I guarantee 99% of the people that are going in there aren't like, they're not doing all that. But they're literally trying to force me to stay on this medication. I'm trying to tell her, like, ma'am, I don't want to be tethered to anything anymore.
Right.
I'm so tired of taking if I would have came out here, then it's that instant, like, do I have enough Suboxone to get me through?
Right,
like,
right.
If I run out?
Yeah.
I still feel like a dope fiend.
Yeah. So is that because of what pay and pharmaceutical?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure that
they're getting kickers.
For sure there is.
Oh yeah,
for sure. The more meds they prescribe, the more money they get. It all starts with the budget, right? So if they have to spend more than their budget every year, so that the following year
it increases.
It increases.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good.
Not good at all.
I would love. I wish I could take somebody like you up and not that I have the ability to do this, but just to literally go up and sit down with Donald Trump and have a conversation just about this right here.
Let's go. I'm in.
Good conversation.
I mean,
like
I agree.
A veteran that has made it through, because you know how many veterans have an addiction problem right now that is still untreated and it's just medicated.
Astronomical.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
Astronomical. There's not a vet I know that's not on medication.
Yeah. We had a guy in yesterday who's a veteran and a veteran advocate.
Yeah.
Was it day before yesterday?
Yeah, day before yesterday.
And it was a great conversation with the guy, though. I really enjoyed it. He says it, the real number is 44 veterans die every day. That adds in, you're adding in the people that die from OD.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all.
What's your sobriety date?
April 18th, 2017.
Wow. Nice. And I see a ring
I'm 2017 too.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go.
I see a ring on your finger, so
somehow
you ended up...
You made it?
Yeah.
I didn't... There's so many things in my life right now that I didn't ever think were a possibility. A wife, a house, a dog. We're getting another dog. Like all these things. I mean, life's good.
How was
Is baby coming next?
No, we're not. No babies for us. No babies.
Okay.
How was it? Just to circle back, because I think doing the documentary is fascinating, and the fact that it kind of is able to kind of follow you through that journey is. How long was the journey, and how long did they follow you for that to film it and to put it together?
So what they would film some, and then they would go into editing.
Sure.
And so like it would mess with my head because I wouldn't hear from them for like months.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'd be like, is this still happening? Like,
Yeah.
Documentaries don't necessarily make like a ton of money. So usually it's a passionate filmmaker that believes in a story and wants it to be told. And so it was mentally, I'd say probably over, when it was all said and done, maybe 2 years.
Oh, wow.
That's a long time.
The first thing they filmed was the race. And so, I mean,
That was the first thing that they filmed?
yeah. Yeah, so it just so happened I had this race scheduled. And so when he bounced the idea off me, he had no idea I was training for a 100-mile race. And so he's like, this is perfect. And so if you, the movie's been out, I can kind of do a little spoiler. But if you watch the trailer, there's a point where I'm at like mile 70. And I come in and I'm sitting there saying I'm going to quit. I'm slurring my words.
Yeah.
I was so calorie deficient. Like I pulled my training plan out of a book. I had no idea what I was doing back then. But it was just all like grit and all that stuff. But in this really cool way, my family had heard it all before. It's going to be different this time. I'm going to stay sober. I'm sober, blah, blah, blah. But they're up in Ohio. I'm here in Texas, or not right now, but I'm in Texas and I'm doing well. And so running in this really cool way, I made a decision to like kind of clear all the bullshit off my social media, get rid of all the old stuff, and then only put positive things up. And so I'd post my runs and pictures with my friends running or a race. And so I didn't know if my family was paying attention through all this. And so I go to run this race. The camera crew's there. We're in the Appalachian Trail. It's called the Pinhoti 100 in Alabama. And I'm set to run this race. And I got a text from my grandmother that morning. And she said, I just want you to know, at night, I'm getting ready to cry. She said, at night, when if you get cold or you get lonely, just remember that I'm going to be following along on my iPad. And so I go to run this race, and I tell people, I break it down, it was physical, mental, spiritual. And so the first half, the first 50, 60 miles was all physical. And then eventually your body is just like, all right, we're done. There's not a step I'm taking anymore where it's not like, why don't we just quit? Like, I could quit at 60 or 70 miles. Who's going to turn their nose up at me? Most people won't run that together in their entire life. And so then it's just all mental. And so that's when I'm sitting there thinking about my grandmother following along on her iPad, wondering if my family paying attention, all these things. And then you get to a point, you start going through the nighttime. It starts getting cold. It starts getting wet. You don't see people for hours. You're questioning everything about your life at this point. And then all of a sudden you make it through the night and the sun starts coming up and your body starts warming up. And like it starts becoming real, where it's like, holy shit, like I might do this. I might finish this race. And so I'll never forget, I get to mile 90, and mile 90 is the last aid station. And so in ultra marathons, every like 3, 5, 7 miles, there's an aid station. And so I come into this aid station, and this woman had made banana bread. And so I smashed 2 pieces of banana bread. At this point in the race, after 90 miles, there's people shitting themselves. There's people puking. Nobody's running. It's just everything you can to take another step. So I eat these 2 pieces of banana bread, and for whatever reason, I just get this jolt of energy where I start feeling good, and then I start running. And I start running at like a pretty good clip. And so I come out of the woods, and I hit the road, and I knew as soon as you hit the road, you have a 7-mile straight stretch to the end, to the finish line. And so I come out onto the road, and there's the van there and the camera crew and all that. And so I'm still at this point in my life, I'm trying to play the tough guy.
Sure.
But everything, I'm like dying to cry right now just because it's such an overwhelming feeling of emotion and thinking about everything. And so, but I'm holding it together for the camera. And so we're running along, and then they take off. And so then I have this next miles, and I'm just replaying everything in my head. I'm replaying being in prison. I'm replaying being a heroin addict, a veteran, eventually getting kicked out of the military. And it's like, holy shit, like I'm about to finish a 100-mile race. Like, 18 months ago, I was sitting in prison. I was sitting there shooting heroin. Like, it's just so crazy. And so I'm coming in, and I'm thinking about my grandma following along on the iPad and everything. And I had some friends that had come to the race with me. And so I'm starting to get closer and closer to this high school football stadium where the race is going to end. And I start hearing the air horns and the cowbells and people yelling. And I come into the stadium, and over all these hundreds of people, I can hear my friends yelling above everybody. And so I come onto the track, and you have about a 3/4 lap around the track and then a straightaway, and then there's the finish line. And I'm so fucking proud. And I come on there, and I hit the track, and I go around. And as soon as I hit the straightaway, I look up, and it's my mom's blonde hair and my sister standing next to her. And I just lose it. It is the most special moment in my entire life. How I got lucky enough for that time in our family, for that to be captured in a film. You know, the director had all set it up like that. And so it's funny to think and go back to mile 70 in the trailer when I'm sitting here getting ready to drop from this race.
Totally.
And he knows he's got my mom and my sister sitting in a hotel room for this big finish. And what if I don't finish this race? None of this stuff's going to happen. And so that's why I tell people all the time, the last part of that race was spiritual for me. There was something greater than me looking out for me, pushing me along, because everything in me wanted to quit. But I didn't for whatever reason, and here we are.
Wow. I love that. I can't wait. I want to watch.
I held back the tears there, the full 5 minutes with the grandma and then the mom and the blonde hair.
But that's what
I definitely did right there at the end.
You know what I'm
with
saying?
the mom. I was like, yeah, because I didn't know where he was going.
No,
with it
neither did I.
Until
Neither
right
did I.
then.
That was awesome.
That was really
Yeah,
good.
it was cool, bro.
So big
What a
part
great
of,
experience.
you know, it's about my life and all that, but a big part of the film is rebuilding a relationship with my family.
Yeah.
And so as the race goes, when I'm hitting low points of the race, it's low points of my story, high points is high points.
Totally.
But the big part was my little sister. She was the toughest one to get back in my corner, and I didn't understand why, because I'm a lot older than my sister. I'm 14 years older. So by the time she was starting to get a little bit older, I was gone with the military, and so I never hurt her. I never hit her physically. You know what I mean? Like, I'm big brother. I'm protecting her at all costs, and so I could never figure out why it was so hard for her to get back in my corner. And so, you know, I thought I knew what I put my family through as far as addiction goes. Until I saw it on the film, I had no idea. And I don't think most of us addicts truly know.
Totally.
I don't think most of us realize, like, I just thought I got sober. Hey, life's good now. I'm sober. Let's go. Your family is going through a whole recovery of their own, a whole process of their own.
Yeah.
And then I start hearing things with my little sister, how I wasn't there when she took homecoming pictures. I wasn't there when she was getting her license.
Yep.
You know, I wasn't there for prom. You know,
weren't there for her to call.
Any of those big
like
brother
that, yeah.
things. And, you know, the random times she would see me, I'd come home to visit. I was fucked up, or, you know what I mean? Still thinking I was a tough guy trying to play all this game. And, you know, so thankfully now, you know, things are the way they should be.
Yeah. But I think that's I think what attracted me so much to kind of like the ultra world to begin with is because it's not necessarily about the miles. It's like really the journey of the process, because you really go through so many stages, like regardless of which race you enter, depending on, you know, if the weather and because depending on which race you pick, it could be freezing or it could be like I ran mine in Arizona, so I was dying. It was so hot. But it's the same thing in your recovery process. The journey is there's so many like peaks and valleys and hills and things that you have to go through. And you always say it all the time, is like, and it is a AA cliche, is like, don't quit before the miracle happens. Or what is it, 5 minutes before
5 minutes.
And it's exactly that. Like, you're at mile 70.
Yeah.
And if you packed it up, yeah, sure. I mean, 70 is a great accomplishment, but you have no idea what was waiting for you at that finish line.
100%.
And thank goodness you were able to, you know, dig deep and continue on, because then you got to experience that with your family.
Yeah.
Dig deeper. That was the little slogan from the Beachbody Insanity. Dig deeper. You got to dig deeper, man.
Yeah, 100%.
And you dug. Now I'm looking forward to actually watching this.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait.
What is it called again?
100 miles to redemption.
100 miles to redemption. And that is why it says what it says on the shirt that I'm wearing right here.
I am redemption.
Yeah, I love that.
Let's go.
Do you still run now?
So I just got back into it. Just getting ready to go. Got some races coming up. I'm going to be doing some stuff with Austin Marathon and all that. So just getting back in the running world. I segued into the gym for a while.
Sure.
Got my heart broke, and running really wasn't doing what I needed it to do then. So got into the gym.
And that did it for a little while, right?
What's that?
That helped with the heartbreak, the getting into the gym.
Yeah.
Lifting the weights.
So the worst thing that ever ended up happening to me with running is I became good at it.
Yeah.
And so I started winning races, won a marathon.
Oh, wow.
was placing pretty consistently, but then it kind of changed the dynamic of running for me.
Yeah.
Where if I go run 100K this weekend and I don't place or win, now I feel like I failed.
Yeah.
Now, who runs 62 miles and feels like they failed at anything? But I started to.
Totally.
And so a little bit of ego started coming into play where I thought I had to win every race. And so I was running a 50K as a training race for another 100K I was going to do. And I happened to be going back and forth in first place with this one guy. And at one point he had to pull over and take a piss. And so as soon as he did, I was like, oh, I got him. There's no way he's going to catch me. And so I take off, but I was wearing the wrong trail shoes for this race. And so there's a rock plate in trail shoes so you can step on rocks hard and not feel it. And the rock plate started digging into a nerve in my foot. And so, but I had to keep running because I was going to win this race. So I win this race and I get done and I can barely walk now. So I don't run for like 5.5 months. I take off. That's kind of when I started piddling around in the gym, but I didn't quite know what I was doing yet. And then I had a buddy of mine who was a road runner. He wanted to run his first ultra. And so he started begging me to run it with him. It was a 50K. And so I was like, all right, man, like I know I can finish it. I'll come run it with you. So we go out to run this race. And in the first 2 miles, he drops from the race because he had rolled his ankle a couple times. So now I'm out there and I would end up going on to win the race. And so I got done and hadn't ran for 5.5 months, get done. And I just remember like, I kind of felt like I'd accomplished what I wanted to accomplish doing that. And as I'm driving home, I come back into cell phone range, and the girl I was dating at the time, who I was head over heels with, dumps me through text. No explanation, no nothing. And so our MO every morning was we get coffee and we go walk at a place called Town Lake in Austin, big body of water down in downtown Austin. And so I remember laying there in bed looking up in the ceiling, and I was like, next time I see her, I'm going to be jacked. And so the next day I dove headfirst into the gym. That's kind of what put running on the back burner for a while, and then taught myself everything I could in the gym, and then ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me because now it gave me this other tool. And thank you to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
for
and
sure.
then you got married. So you obviously found
definitely
someone.
Everything worked out the way it should, for sure.
It always does.
What shoes do you wear when you run? Are you have a brand?
Usually I'm with Hoka, but
That's what I did too.
Yeah.
My first one.
Usually Hoka for ultra marathons. A little bit different with road running shoes, trail running shoes, and all that.
Yeah.
Have you ever been interested in doing like? I have a couple friends that did the Moab.
So
240.
I did a Tahoe 100K.
Okay.
And as I was doing Tahoe 100K, the Bigfoot 200 was going on. They were going the opposite way. The one thing I noticed about those races is, and I'm not taking anything away from them because it's a whole nother beast, but there's not a whole lot of running going on. It's a lot of power hiking the whole time.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying.
My goal has always been to see how far I can run.
Sure.
How far can I continuously run without stopping? I never really cared about how far can I go distance-wise. And so just if it starts involving a lot of hiking and all that stuff, I'm good.
Yeah.
But props to them because it's a different animal.
Oh my God, it's like crazy. That's why I do love the how Ultra does it, where you can follow people on and see like them on the trail.
Yeah.
The Moab is nasty because it's just like you're basically going insane because a lot of them don't sleep.
Right.
And so you're literally going like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, Courtney Dauwalter.
She's a savage.
Slept for a minute.
That chick, I don't even know.
Next level.
And not only that, but like she has God's gift because her training from her nutrition and stuff is nuts. It's like candy and beer and Coke.
Basketball
and
shorts.
Totally. Like not giving a fuck and just going out there and putting miles down. Like she's an animal. She is definitely a rare breed for sure.
For sure. So along with the running, can I tell you guys a story?
Yeah.
Quick? You got some?
No.
So one of my biggest problems, I'd say, trying to get sober over the years is I wasn't, in all honesty, at the time, I wasn't a big God guy. Not that I didn't believe in God. I believed in something. I just didn't know what I believed in. And I couldn't put God in a box.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's I got older, I listened to too much Joe Rogan, I started questioning everything. And it's like, oh, man wrote the Bible. Can I really trust this or whatever? And so this story I'm about to tell you guys is what let me know that God is very real in my life. And I don't care what anybody has to say. And so as I'm in the process of getting kicked out of the military, they're going to send me to treatment because I'd failed a urinalysis. And so they send me to a little 30-day facility in Austin. I show up there. I am not worried at all about getting sober. I'm trying to get out of trouble. I'm trying to salvage my military career. And so my MO has always been hang around the funny guys. It doesn't matter if we're playing sports, if I'm locked up, if I'm in school, prison, you name it. I hang around the funny guys. We're going to talk shit. We're going to pass time. I would discover later that that didn't quite serve me all the time. So I go up into this treatment center. I meet a guy 6-7 years younger than me, funny as hell. And so I'm like, I'll bet this is my rehab homie. We're going to kick it. We're going to get right through this. And so we're in there doing everything you shouldn't be doing. I'm talking during group. I'm cracking jokes, talking to girls. And about halfway through my 30-day treatment stay, I break the cardinal rule, start dating one of the girls in the treatment center. The absolute worst decision I've ever made in my entire life. Get out of the treatment center. I end up in the most toxic 2-year relationship known to mankind. Both of our faults. It's nobody, you know, we were both sick. And so I get out, and then that's when I start getting in trouble with the law. And so I catch my first 2 felonies for heroin possession. Now I got to go away. I got to go to do 2 years, but I'm all good. My boys, they're going to hold me down. My girl, she'll put money on my books. She'll write me. I go away. How many letters do you think I got?
Zero.
None. No money on my books, completely alone. Do my time, get out, come back to Austin, and then I make the logical drug addict decision that I got to look the girl up and see what she's up to. I'm lonely. I've been in prison this whole time. And so I go to look her up, and now she's with my young homeboy from the treatment center. They're together. So I start texting her, and so she starts sneaking around behind his back to come see me. And then he finds out about me, so he's texting me and calling me, and we're going to fight. We're going to do all this. And he would never come meet me. And so one night I had had enough. And so I got to play the tough guy now. So I'm going to go to him. So I find out where he lives, very nice apartments. It's like a gated community. I hop the fence, find the apartment. I'm knocking on the door, and he won't come outside. And so this girl loved the fact that there were 2 guys getting ready to fight over her. So she was kind of fueling the flame a little bit, trying to get him to come out, and he wouldn't. And so she ends up packing her stuff up, and she's going to leave and come with me now. And I have this grand plan that we're going to move to this small town in Texas. And because there's a big VA there, that's where we're going to get sober. I have no idea what I was thinking, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. So we take off, and we go to Temple, Texas. We pull into town. I find the first little crackhead motel I can find. I get us a room. She starts unpacking her stuff. And all of a sudden, out comes the laptop. Out comes an iPad. Out comes a cell phone, PlayStation, all this electronic stuff I know she doesn't have the money for. And now one thing I never got down with in my entire addiction was stealing. I just always felt like it was bad karma. I just never did it. And so I never had any problem with this guy other than the girl. And now I got the girl back. And so in my mind, we're good. So I call him up. I'm like, hey, man, I got your stuff. I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm not going to pawn it. You're more than welcome to come get it. And so for whatever reason, he thought I was setting him up. And so he ended up sending his mother to come pick up this stuff. Now, why you would send your mother to pick up stuff off somebody you think is going to set you up, I don't know. Totally. Especially to a shady motel at night, but that's what it was.
Yeah.
So I go out there, very nice woman, give her the stuff. That's that, right? Now, fast forward 3 years later, I end up in treatment in Austin, but I'm actually there for the right reasons now. And it's a state-funded facility, very, very modest place. Then that's what, now we're at the part where I discover running, and I start going to this little run group, and then I hear about my friend Penny, who runs these ultra marathons. And so anybody that ever hears me talk knows I always bring Penny up because in many, many ways, Penny saved my life. She saw something in me I didn't see in myself. It was the first time when I left treatment now, I was so ready. I was so excited for this new community, this new thing I had found that lit a fire up under my ass. Absolutely transformed my life. So one day we were out on the trail, and as she's training me up for that 10K I was talking about earlier, we're sitting there talking. You know how it is when you're running, you're sitting there telling every story you know, and I'm sitting there telling her my whole experience, how I was getting kicked out of the military. I ended up in treatment, ended up with this girl, and at one point I said the girl's name. And so the girl has a very unique name. It's not one you hear every day. And as soon as I said the name, my friend Penny's running, and she stops dead in her tracks, and she looks over at me, and she goes, Shawn, do you know my son? And I was like, who's your son? Her son was my young homeboy from the treatment center. She was the mother that 3 years before had come and picked that stuff up off of me.
Penny.
Right?
Penny Lane.
Penny.
Now, on what spectrum of the universe?
You didn't recognize her? She didn't recognize you?
No, he was all fucked up.
Was it
No,
dark
no,
at
I
night?
had
Yeah.
a big old beard.
Jesus Christ.
Now, if
I
that's
just got
not
the
God
chills.
working in my life, I don't know what is. What is, now just think about this for a second.
Wow.
Impossible.
I love that.
A city like Austin that we just went through this big boom. There's millions of people there. You know, we're getting flooded from California. Elon's there. Joe's there. All these people are coming. What is the chances that I leave this city for 3 years and come back and get plugged in with the one person that would introduce me to an avenue that literally saved my life, right? Now, Penny was, at the time, was the vice president of cybersecurity for Visa. Now, again, on what spectrum of the universe does a 4-time felon kicked out of the military ever become best friends with the vice president of cybersecurity for Visa? Like, again, if that's not God, I don't know what is. And so, Penny, I love you. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Did you
How's your kid doing?
Yeah.
He's good. Everything's good.
Everything's good.
Yep. Yeah.
Nice. That's a fucking great.
Wow.
She's one of my best friends to this day. I've been there every Thanksgiving.
My mom's name is Penny.
Is it really?
Yeah.
She, me and my wife, we eloped, and Penny drove out there and married us. So.
Whoa.
Oh,
I love that.
Yeah.
that's awesome. What a
That's
story.
amazing.
That is
What a
great.
great story.
Wild.
Yeah, if that doesn't tell you,
What's that girl doing now?
I don't know.
Don't know.
Do not know.
nor should you.
No, I hope she's doing well.
Yeah.
That's
Hope she's doing
incredible.
Yeah, it's a good story.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love it.
Well, I mean, that is literally like the perfect note to wind down our podcast. Because
Yeah,
that was
amazing.
so
So good.
powerful. I like. That's like almost we got to put the beginning at the. I mean, the end at
Yeah.
the beginning.
Yeah. We could.
To
I agree.
not all of it though, just enough to entice them.
Open with the closer.
Open with the
like it.
closer,
I like
yeah,
it. I
just
like it.
enough to entice them. You hear me? You hear me over there, Lewis?
I love it.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Good for you.
Yeah, bro.
Thank you.
Well done.
Bloody miracle. Miracle after miracle.
Just so you guys, just want to say this live. Like, it's a tremendous honor to be here. Like, thank you guys enough. I'm honored to have come on. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
Oh my
appreciate
Yeah,
Yes, of
man,
course.
we appreciate you. This was a
Yeah.
good podcast.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward
And I can't
to
wait.
this
I'm
one
gonna.
dropping.
I'm definitely diving
watching
in
this
and watching.
weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime.
I thought
Yeah,
Netflix.
no, he said
No,
Amazon
he said
Prime.
No, not Netflix.
No,
Amazon,
Amazon Prime.
Amazon
All right.
Prime.
I got Amazon Prime.
Netflix.
They don't let dope fiends like us on it.
Amazing. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, they
Bro,
waited
bro,
until
appreciate
you were out of the WWE to
Oh,
move over
yeah.
to Netflix.
Yeah, huh.
I guess they did
okay.
that. Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime
100 Miles to Redemption.
Right? I Am Redemption podcast. Please.
I Am
Yeah.
Redemption podcast.
And just so everyone knows, it's, I've had a lot of people from the recovery community on, but it's people from all different walks of life.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I do a lot of speaking now. And so one of the things I understood, one of the first things they did for the film after the race and all that was they made the trailer. And so they were going around and they were trying to do promo to try to raise money and all that. And so they ended up inviting 200 Austin runners to come see the trailer. And I can remember, I hadn't done much speaking back then or whatever. And so the trailer goes up, the lights go off, and within 3 minutes, everybody, all these people in the Austin running community kind of knew who I was. They knew I run ultra marathons and all that, but they didn't know my whole story. And so within 3 minutes, they get hit with 4-time felon, kicked out of the military, homeless, heroin addict, family doesn't talk to them, you name it. And then the lights go back on. And so the only feeling I can tell you is it's like I got pushed out the front door naked.
Yeah.
Like I don't have that cloak anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there as I'm talking, wondering, what are all these people thinking about me? Like, these are normal people. They're, what are they thinking about my addict ass? And so they hear all that. I speak, and I was blown away because afterwards, all 200 people converge on me and then just start flowing with everything they have been through, their brother, sister, uncle, mother, this and that, sexual trauma, mental health, addiction, alcoholism, you name it. And that's what taught me and showed me like, wow, like if you're willing to open up and start talking, it doesn't matter what it's about, it helps other people.
for sure.
And so my goal is, with the podcast, with the speaking and everything, is to get people to understand like everybody in this room right now has a unique life experience, right? We've all been through different things the other one hasn't been through.
Yeah.
And so if you're somebody that's lucky enough to make it on the other side of that, and you actually want to give some purpose to the pain that you've been through, because I didn't know a world existed where we could take all this pain and use it to help other people.
Yeah.
But when I discovered it, it changed my life. And so anybody out there, if you've been through that and you've been on the other side and you actually want to get some purpose out of it, use it to help people and see what it does for you. So I have people from all different walks of life come on. We've had UFC fighters. We've had, hopefully we have some wrestlers pretty soon.
Yes, absolutely. You got it.
But Olympic athletes, people in music, movies, all different walks of life, because at the end of the day, I love what we're doing right here, right now, because the only reason there's a stigma around this is because people didn't want to talk about it.
100%.
Yeah.
The more we do this, the more
Yes.
that stigma is gone.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
That's why we started Recovering Out Loud, and now I don't ever want to discount the 12 steps and the spiritual principle of anonymity, because there is a reason for that spiritual principle of anonymity, and that's actually not what most people think about. The spiritual principle of anonymity is that we don't really have a story other than our disease, and we're in a room amongst each other, regardless of our backgrounds, we're all equal.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what the spiritual principle of anonymity actually means. It doesn't mean that you can't get on a microphone like this, because I'm on the microphone. I'm not representing Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous. I'm representing
Chad Carlson,
and
my story, and your own personal story.
Yep. And that's what we're doing. And as we sit here on these microphones, man, we're no better than anybody else. We just 100%. Want people to know that, like,
you're not alone.
You're not alone, and we hurt too. And we understand what it feels like to hurt, and we understand what it's about to walk through that pain.
Oh yeah.
So the last thing I'm going to say is it is, and I like to tell our community, it is actually easier to walk through the pain than to continue to sit in it on a daily basis. Amen.
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 Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Man.